Born
Okay.
into a family where intellect and artistic talent intersected effortlessly, our guest's early years were marked by a natural inclination toward drawing. He is one of the most inventive and critically acclaimed artists in the field of children's literature. His many accolades include the prestigious Caldecott Medal for Rapunzel, alongside multiple Caldecott Honors for other beloved works such as Hansel and Gretel, Rumpelstiltskin, and Swamp Angel. Let us extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to the incomparable talent who has brought joy and wonder to countless readers, the one and only Paul O. Zelinsky.
Thank you. That was really quite the introduction. I very appreciate it very much. I feel like overpraised.
No, you definitely deserve it. Your journey into the world of children's literature is fascinating, particularly your time at Yale College. You took a class taught by Maurice Sendak, the illustrator of wildly popular Where the Wild Things Are. How did your encounter with Sendak influence your path toward becoming a celebrated illustrator, or were you already inspired to pursue this path during your childhood?
Well, Christopher, that's an interesting question. I think it is anyway, but I just feel incredibly lucky to have landed, to have just been there in college right at the moment that Sendak actually he started teaching. The first thing he ever taught was that one course, and it was created by a girl who was like 2 years ahead of me, who knew about a program where you could create your own college course if it wasn't being offered, and they thought it was a good idea. And so she called Sendak out of the phone book. You know, in those days, things were different, and he answered. She convinced him to teach it, and that's how I saw it in a course catalog and applied for it. It was just a small course. There were like a dozen people in it. And like I said, I just happened to be there. And you ask whether I was headed in that direction already or not. And I'm not sure what to answer because it's yes and no. I had no idea about making children's books, but at the same time, I loved them. I grew up like going into bookstores, like when my mother went shopping, and I was even in high school and went along, and I'd go to the bookstore in the shopping mall, and I'd go straight to the picture books because I loved looking through these pictures, even though they weren't my age level. And I liked looking at them, but I didn't really think that uh, they were made by living people. You know, I sort of assumed everybody was dead who did them. And I was not sure I would be an artist. There were a few other things that I thought I might love to go into, but that was definitely one of the things because I grew up, I was sort of the class artist kid who never stopped drawing because I was kind of, my hand just wanted to do it. It wasn't me. I thought of like maybe even like stage design, or when I was little, I thought I went to the Museum of Natural History in Chicago, where I grew up, and they have these tremendous cases with stuffed lions and elephants and backgrounds that look so real you could walk into them. I'd like to make things. Making things was really cool. But it wasn't until I saw this course that Sendak taught and got into it that it dawned on me that this could be something that was right up my alley.
That you could do it for a career?
Yeah. Although it wasn't the only thing I thought of doing. I didn't say, now this is what I want to do, because I was an art major already in college. And as an art major, you were on a track, and the teachers I had really good teachers, and they had expectations of their students, which was that you would get a degree in art, and then you'd just be an artist, and you'd make paintings, and you'd be in galleries. And if you couldn't live off that, you would get a teaching job in a college. You'd teach college art. So that was sort of the track that I was on. I might have not followed it. There were other people in this course who were also interested in, well, they were all interested in children's books, but one of us got a book published by the end of that year and moved to New York and became a children's book author illustrator and did very well. And my collaboration was with as a writer, was the girl who started the course. Together, we did a whole bunch of things, and we got one publisher who wanted to publish it. And what happened was that the publisher, before we could sign a contract, the publisher was bought by another publisher and dissolved. So they didn't exist anymore. And that was the end of that. And if that hadn't happened, I don't know what I would have done. But I went on. I actually got a master's degree in art, and I became a teacher for a very short time until it became very clear to me that I was not a born teacher. I would be saying things to my class in California, and just as I was saying them, I'd be thinking, boy, I'm glad I'm not in his class. And that's not how you want a teacher to be, right? Not the best. So my plan B was always to move to New York and see if I could try illustrating. And that's what I did. It's a long answer to a short question.
It was a good answer. If you weren't going to become a children's book illustrator, what job do you think you would have pursued besides a teacher?
Right. I would have pursued it, and then I would have run the other direction. I really enjoyed physics when I was in college, and I thought maybe I could do this, although I really wasn't that good a student in physics compared to art. So that was a large part of what made me not go much farther there. Neuroscience, I'm really interested in how we see it. It's fascinating to me. And I think what I do kind of is my way of finding that out already.
Your illustrated retelling of Rapunzel earned you the prestigious Caldecott Medal. Can you walk us through the creative process behind bringing this classic fairy tale to life in a new and captivating way?
Well, yeah, thank you. Actually, it took me almost 3 years to make this book. I was sort of crazily obsessive about a lot of things. That's what I do. It was something I wanted to do for a few reasons. And it was the third Grimm's fairy tale that I illustrated. And part of it was it seemed to go so well with the first one that I made a second one, and it went even better for the second one. And I thought, you can't have just two Grimm's fairy tale things. Three is the magic number, right? It always there are three wishes, there are three anything. So there had to be a third. And the first two were very personal. The reasons that I chose them, or maybe they chose me, were the first one was Hansel and Gretel, and that had to do with a painting of Hansel and Gretel that my great grandmother made, and it hung over my crib when I was very little, and I had really special feelings about the story. So I thought those feelings I just hadn't seen in a book anywhere of Hansel and Gretel, and I thought I want to try to bring that out. So that was my attempt, was that book, and then it won a Caldecott Honor, which was great, So, and then I had this other sort of drive to, in the same way, for Rumpelstiltskin, because Rumpelstiltskin, I'd like to say I was Rumpelstiltskin when I was 11, because the town I grew up in, Wilmette, Illinois, had children's theater, a summer program every year for kids and grown-ups. It was a big thing in Wilmette. The Wilmette Children's Theater put on one play every summer, and the summer I was 11, the play was Rumpelstiltskin, and I tried out somehow, and I was Rumpelstiltskin. So I had these special feelings about that story, you can imagine, and also a lot of sympathy for the character. Even though he's a villain, you really have to feel sorry for him, I think, in the end. Anyway, that was behind my making Rumpelstiltskin into a book, and I won a Caldecott Honor. So there had to be a third. My stupid reason for making the third Rapunzel was that from the time Rumpelstiltskin came out, people were coming up to me and saying, I loved your book, Rapunzel. I guess a long time since they knew these stories particularly well. And Rumpelstiltskin and Rapunzel have most of the same letters. They're long words. They start with an R. They have this U in them, and so that people got them confused. And I was saying, thank you, but you mean Rumpelstiltskin. And somewhere in the back of my head was, well, if I make a Rapunzel, I don't have to say that. So that was a stupid reason. And then maybe slightly less stupid reason was that I thought if I illustrate Rapunzel, there's all this hair, and hair is the coolest thing. I said something about trying to understand the world through, like, what do we see? Hair is different from other things. The way it reflects light, if you can draw realistically, you sort of know how light falls on something and it's light on one side and dark on it. Hair doesn't work that way. I mean, different hairs look different, but hair and velvet and certain objects just reflect light in their own way. And there's some artists, incredible hair painters. And I want to see what they did because I've never tried that hard. So there was that, but I didn't really identify with Rapunzel. All those things together, I decided I would illustrate Rapunzel. And then it was a matter of doing pretty much what I'd done for the other two books, which was, I mean, first write it, or for the first one, I had a friend wrote it for me, and second, to sort of design the book. So every picture had its own page, and you figured out what the pictures would be like, what their compositions would be. And then I thought I needed to have some models for this, finding them. There's so much to do, and it's really all interesting to me. Took a lot of photographs of the models and things that I needed and reference material and all this, and I made sketch after sketch after sketch. And then the finished art, which I was with a technique that I kind of made up for Hansel and Gretel, and I got better with Rapunzel holding. This Rumpelstiltskin looks like this. So you can see that's me. That's not me, actually. But it was quite realistic. So I wanted these to look like the paintings you'd see in museums that were painted, the Renaissance kind of paintings. And those were oil paintings. And they have a kind of richness and depth to them. And the reason that oil paint can give you that particular kind of real dimension and depth is that it was painted with transparent paints. And you actually do see through the layers of paint. And it's in the same way that jewels have a richness of color, these layers of paint act like jewelry in the way the light comes in and goes out. And so what they would do is they would paint an underpainting, which didn't have color. It was just darks and lights. And then over that, there would be layers of transparent color layered on top of that. And I made my underpainting in watercolor, which wasn't how they did it in Renaissance. But for me, it had to be on paper because the book was going to be scanned on a drum scanner. It couldn't be on something rigid. And so I made a watercolor that was pretty accurate and refined, but it didn't have color in it. And you can see the bottom half of this was my demonstration watercolor. And then during the demonstration, I didn't have that much time, but I started layering a little bit of color on top of the watercolor. So you can see that this cow has an orange, a brownish color on it. And I didn't paint dark and light brown. I just painted like one clear coat of brown, and you can see the variations in tone from that. And the way the color actually looks, it's deeper and more, it's just clearer and deeper in a way than if I painted different colors of brown to go in the different places. So that was the technique. And I also have one, this is one of the originals from Rapunzel. So we're in my studio, so I can easily just bring them in. And this is why it took 3 years. Everything you can see, just how laborious it was. And yeah, so that was, I think that's sort of the whole story. It took a long time to make those oil paintings. And then when they were done, the book was done.
What draws you to retell these timeless stories, and how do you infuse them with your own unique style and perspective?
I hope it was a good thing that I did to go to go back to these stories. I think that I think fairy tales, for one thing, they're not lesson telling stories usually. The Grimm's stories were not, most of them, created to tell a lesson to children. They weren't even made for children in large part. They were stories. People loved hearing stories, and the best stories make you think and make you feel and think in some kind of mixed way. And if you know that you're being told a story because somebody wants you to feel this, somebody wants you to learn that it's wrong to lie, or it's nice to be kind to people or something like that, I don't listen to those stories very readily, and I think that's not what I like. But the sort of mystery of like who is Rumpelstiltskin? Where did he come from? And Rapunzel, it just, the magic and the mystery of them really appeals to me. How can I be unique and different from other people? When you think that, you're thinking about how other people will react to the thing that you do. And I don't think that's the relation that you should have to something you make. If you want to make something that's really wonderful, it's all between you and the thing. You know, if there was a story, I mean, there's a story, there's the background, the folktale is there. And if you just know the feelings that it gives you and the feelings you think belong in what you make from it, that's what you're working on. And you're doing what you can. You churn out whatever you can churn out, look at it and think, does this do it for me? And if it doesn't, how can I make it closer to what I feel? And that's really all you have to work with, you know. And if it turns out not being different from what other people have done, and if it doesn't have my own unique stamp on it, too bad, you know. Then maybe if it's not good, then maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But I think that's the way to work with honesty and integrity, and you know, how do I make this better is not by comparing it to anything else, but making it better. That I don't, nobody really knows. That's the short answer.
Your contributions to the world of literature extend beyond your enchanting picture books. Could you tell us about your involvement with organizations like PEN America and the significance of supporting freedom of expression in today's world?
The climate these days is something I never would have thought growing up in the 50s and 60s that we would be facing the kind of challenges that we're facing today, because it seemed like the world had gotten better for just about, you know, for a lot of people. Maybe it didn't get better for a small elite ruling class that you know, that's afraid they're losing power now. I don't know, but these days there's been a movement to keep books out of the hands of children if they don't resemble the books that I grew up with, where everybody was white and everybody was happy, you know. And even there, it's not true. The books that I grew up with included a lot of things that were probably wouldn't meet the approval of the book banners. So thankfully, I think there are a lot more people who want to see freedom of expression and want children to be able to read books about anything and anybody. It's a matter of stopping them. And then I think PEN America is in the forefront of this. So I'm a member of PEN, as a lot of people are. The work being done by PEN specifically to fight lawsuits, and actually I think one of the most important things PEN has been doing is gathering data and information so that they can say factually that this is the state of things. People are just arguing back and forth. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's not bad. You know, a lot of people are doing this. No, they're not. You know, that's an argument. But when there are numbers attached, then it becomes something else. So PEN has been gathering data, and I think that's a fantastic thing they've been doing. And I'm proud that I'm on an active in PEN in the New York chapter. There's we meet every month, this group of children's writers and illustrators.
With a career spanning several decades, what advice would you give to aspiring illustrators and storytellers writing children's literature?
You should be patient, and you should work on the work that you love to do and try to make it as much as rich and as rewarding for yourself as you possibly can. And try not to worry too much about doing what other people tell you to do. I think that not being an imitator happens when you just look at what's in your own heart more, and not so much at what you're trying to, you know, what other people are succeeding at, let's say. So it's important to be, you know, as good a storyteller in pictures and in words as you can be. It's all about telling stories and about making the stories fun and interesting and wonderful. And that's where the satisfaction lies too. It's not a career that almost anybody gets rich from, pretty much nobody. And then fame is also not, it doesn't bring happiness if you get it, and most people don't get it, and it's a small bit of fame in the children's book world available anyway. So rich and famous is not the point, in case anybody thinks it is, but the satisfaction of working on something that's really cool and that children love, because when children like something, they like it. It's a wonderful world to be in for that reason.
Zelinsky's ability to infuse classic tales with his unique style and perspective has captivated audiences worldwide, leaving an enduring legacy on the literary landscape. Moreover, his dedication to supporting freedom of expression through organizations like PEN America underscores the profound impact that art and storytelling can have on shaping our world. Let's carry forward the wisdom and inspiration gained from Zelinsky's words as we continue to celebrate the magic of storytelling in all its forms. Paul, we sincerely appreciate your time and insights shared with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. That was very eloquent and well said. Thank you very much.
Thank you.